going on? It's Jake. In this video, we're going to talk real quick just about my training and what's been going on with me. Maybe that's interesting to you, maybe it's not. Just some context. Back in January, I weighed 275 approximately, completely untrained. So throughout my life, I've played sports, I've done a lot of calisthenics, never really weight trained except for a period of about 2 months. I'll throw up a picture. A period of about 2 months. When I was in college. My apartment building had an actually solid gym. Like, they had a full dumbbell set, they had a Smith machine, which I loved using because it felt safer to me to do these compound movements, which I'd never done before, on a Smith machine where I could just lock it out if I engaged with any trouble. More context for that, like, my source of information at that point, I knew so little about training. My main source of information was probably Athlete X at that point. And the issue that I ran into and why I ultimately stopped training is that my fatigue ran so high that I stopped being able to actually engage in the rest of my life. The day after I would exercise, I would be so exhausted that I could not function. I would have to sleep late into the day. I would have to take naps. And so eventually I just couldn't keep up with the fatigue that was being generated by the amount of work I was doing. I work really hard. When I play sports, when I exercise, whatever, I go fucking really hard. Back then, and I wasn't really overweight back then, I've always been over 200. I dropped down periodically below that, but really I've been over 200. I could also throw up a picture of me at 200, looking pretty lean, dude. For someone who's 200. Anyway, that brings us to just a little bit of history of my actual training. Back in January, I was definitely obese, looking like shit, feeling like shit, and needed to make a change, and I just decided to do it. So I essentially started training on the 1st. It was not a fucking New Year's resolution or anything like that. I've never done New Year's resolutions. I don't celebrate birthdays, shit like that. I don't care about that stuff. Essentially, January 1st is when I started training, which is cool because it gives a really clear timeline of then to now. So over the last 8 months, I'll throw up some progress pictures throughout the months for you guys.
With crimson secrets and forbidden bliss, can't stay still, don't stop that thrill. My bones crave your skin, temptation within, mistakes ignite the silence. Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
Throughout the months, I've learned an immense amount. I've learned an immense amount about resistance training, health, hormones in the body, about the rampant use of anabolic substances amongst people. I didn't even know who Jay Cutler was, dude. I didn't know who Ronnie Coleman was. I didn't know any of this stuff. I'd never seen a Derek video, okay? I didn't know who Leo was back in January, all right? I didn't know any of this shit. And the reason that I started getting into the hormone side of it is because I just knew I was fucked. I knew I was fucked. Like a decade of opiate abuse, pretty much. And I looked into that, and it seems that there's a correlation between long-term opiate use / abuse and hypogonadism. I just knew something wasn't right. And that's what led me ultimately to finding videos of Derek. And finding videos of Derek ultimately led me to finding videos of Leo and Steve and Vigorous Steve, you don't know who that is. And I've done an immense amount of research and reading on the subject and learned a ton about it, and I think it's been really useful. And it turns out I was hypogonadal. I pulled a first value, I'll throw up a picture, I pulled up a first value of approximately 315, something like that, and a month, maybe less later, I pulled a value of 250. Dude, okay, never used anabolic substances, all right, you know, nothing. I've never used gear in my life, okay, so that's just 100% pure, you're fucked, baby, all right, that's not like, I didn't even get it in the fun way, I got it in like the your life is fucked way. And so I started freaking out, I started freaking the fuck out. I'm like, okay, now what do I have to go on TRT? Like, I didn't understand anything about anything, and luckily I didn't, because that would have been a terrible mistake and completely unnecessary. But I did start looking into that avenue, and that's what led me to having a much deeper understanding of our, at least male, hormonal system and lifestyle choices that can affect that. What are we talking about in this video? In this video, we're talking about why I'm switching to a, this seems like it has nothing to do with it. We're talking about in this video why I'm switching to pull-push legs. Yes, I said pull-push legs. It did not say push-pull legs, okay? And we can talk about that in a minute, but pull-push legs makes a lot more sense in my mind and in the mind of some other people. I'm switching to pull-push legs, and what was I doing prior to that? I've made a lot of progress, man, in the last, I'm sweating my dick off. I've made a lot of progress in the last 8 months. I'm down to 240 at the moment, so that's 35 pounds of fat gone. I have more muscle at this point than I fucking like know what to do with, considering I've never had any muscle before in my life. So what was I doing prior to pull-push legs, which I just started doing last week and I love it? Nothing. I was doing whatever the fuck I wanted, and I was doing a lot of it, and that's the issue. So the main reason for me switching to pull-push legs after a lot of thinking about this and kind of resisting going into a regimented program of any kind, the reason is not that I think it's going to increase hypertrophy. That might be a byproduct of what occurs, but my main reason is the same reason that I ran into, the same issue that I ran into when I originally started weight training a few years ago. I was probably 22 or something like that, okay? And it is fatigue. Fatigue is something that I have had trouble dealing with since I've started exercising. And it's because I go way too hard and I do it way too often and I don't take breaks. I have not taken a rest period aside from a week where I got sick since I started. The most number of rest days that I've taken is like 2 or 3, not counting when I had a 104 fever for like a fucking week out of nowhere. Fatigue management is the primary reason for me starting to utilize pull-push legs. There's obviously different types of fatigue. Renaissance Periodization has an excellent video on the different types of fatigue, but my joint fatigue, my connective tissue fatigue in primarily just my knees at this point, but my shoulders have experienced a lot of pain over the months. When I was bench pressing almost every day, and I was also deadlifting, bench pressing, squatting, like all these things, these compound movements every day over the course of the last 8 months. Not for a while I haven't been doing that because that's when I was weaker. When I was a little bit weaker, you know, when I was bench pressing like 185 or something for like 3, and that was like a grind fest. When my weights were lower, the amount of fatigue generated was nowhere near as much as what I can do to myself now. And my bench isn't that much more impressive. I can do like 220. Last time, I haven't even benched in a while. I switched to dumbbell bench because I like that deep stretch that you can get, and I think it's more fun. But, you know, the last bench that I had was 225 for 3. So fatigue is one of the main issues. How does pull-push legs help with moderating the amount of fatigue? Well, in terms of systemic fatigue, it's not going to help that much if I don't actually take a deload period and then start some sort of periodization of my training where I slowly increase the intensity over a set period of time and then drop it off and deload. Okay, so systemic fatigue that's not going to be helped if I just keep maxing out almost every single, because I max out like pretty much every single time I go to the gym on pretty much every movement. The real sort of fatigue that I'm trying to avoid is connective tissue fatigue. I don't get sore, something that I think is pretty interesting. Literally the only body part on my body that gets sore is my abs when I train my abs, and I think it's because I never fucking train them. Like I train them, like now I train them once a week at least. But I used to train them once a month. I've probably trained my abs, like actually trained my abs, fucking like 15 times in the last 8 months. Okay, psych. Just had to spend the last like 15 to 20 minutes trying to figure out why my card is telling me I have no space. All right. I was talking about abs, how they don't get sore. Yeah, I don't really get sore. The last thing besides my abs to really get sore were my adductors, because I do hit those booty machines almost every day at this point as a very, very light warm up, because the pain in my knees is exceptional. And I'm not exactly sure what the issue is, but after looking into it, I do accessory work on my adductors, my abductors, my quads, my hip flexors, and my calves pretty frequently, very lightly, just to get blood in there and warm them up. And typically after I do that, my knees do feel better. But my knees are experiencing a different type of pain than just the pain that I've experienced in my elbows from very frequent, very high intensity benching. Intensity is relative, obviously, to how strong someone is. Or the pain that I feel in my shoulders. Shoulder pain is something I still feel, but I've been incorporating Lou raises in a very slow, controlled motion for about a month now, and it's helped a lot, I think. I've worked up to about 25 pounds. And I don't really count reps on that. But yeah, my knees are experiencing a totally different type of pain, to the point where I actually stopped squatting, deadlifting for about a month, and that was very frustrating for me, because squatting is definitely my favorite compound movement. Yeah, it's to the point where like sometimes walking upstairs is like, it's not even the pain, it's that my knee feels so unstable. The surrounding muscles to my knee feel so unstable. So I think I gotta go get an MRI and go see what's up with that. But pull push legs. One of the reasons, aside from trying to manage my connective tissue fatigue by properly spacing out when I exercise these muscles, is because an issue that I was running into when I would train legs and I would do these compound movements, because I do squat and deadlift on the same day. The only times that I've injured my back, actually, in the last 8 months, are when I'm doing legs, or when I'm loading my axial skeleton. And it's on a day that I'm loading my axial skeleton after I worked my back the day before. So the only times that I've hurt my back, there's been 3 times. One of them was just a slight tweak in my right lat, and that's from just doing incredibly heavy row movements with that like that hammer strength, man. They don't have that at that gym that I'm going to now, but that's my hands down favorite machine that there is that plate loaded hammer strength row machine. When I've hurt my back, aside from that lat, it's when I have heavily exercised my back the day before, and then I heavily load my axial skeleton under a squat. And actually, it was one time when I was squatting and it was only 225, and I had already hit like 315 at that point. So 225 was like, 225, light work. And I didn't really warm up properly, I don't think. And I put it on my back and something just tweaked, and I was just like, fuck. I had to go like lay down, I was fucked. And the second time is even dumber. This is the dumbest fucking thing. And now I won't train calves this way, is with the calf machine where you load your fucking back. And the more that I think about that, the more I think that's the dumbest exercise. Maybe somebody has a good argument as to why you would want to be completely upright and loading your axial skeleton while training what some would say is the least important muscle in your fucking body. But yeah, it's when I put like, 250, 300 on the calf machine and was going to town, and it was just like and dude, I was so embarrassed, man. I literally had to go lay down in a room at this gym that I was at for like 20 minutes. I couldn't move. I was so fucked. Man, okay, so pull push legs. So I'll have a day where I pull. On this day, I don't do a lot of movements in one day. I might do 5 or 6 movements per workout. And as time is going on and I'm getting more intelligent about my training, my time in the gym is decreasing for sure. I used to do 2 to 3 hours almost every time I would go in there. Now I can get away with an hour if I really push it, and my cardiovascular system is cooperating with me. Cardio has historically been a limiting factor for me because I've been so overweight. And as I'm incorporating more cardio and as I'm losing more weight, things are getting easier. So on a pull day, this is what I'll do. I'll do a close grip pull downs with the mag grip. That's one of my favorite movements ever. Then I'll do a chest supported row And then at the end of that, so I try to internally rotate to really contract my lats while I'm using that machine. But then after I've finished my sets, I'll externally rotate for my delts, because I can definitely feel that in my delts. So I'll do those 2 movements, and then I will maybe do lat prayers, and then I move on to my biceps, dude. And so I guess that's like 4 movements. And then for biceps, I've only been doing preacher curls, and then to incorporate some of my forearm, I'll do hammer curls. On a push day, I'm doing flat dumbbell bench. Right now I'm hitting that for 80 for a 3x5, 80s for a 3x5. I'm happy with that. The first time I dumbbell benched was, I don't know, man, like a month ago or something like that. And I fucking love it. I think it's a lot of fun. Slowly working up toward those hundos, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I guess I could make a different video talking about exactly what I do. I have a pretty standard set of movements that I engage in. My main point of this video was just to talk about the fact that I am finally incorporating some regimen into the work that I'm doing. Today, I'm taking a somewhat of a deload week. I'm trying to. It's very difficult for me to do that, but I'm trying to. And so that at the beginning of this coming month, I can start with some sort of periodization. I can start with some sort of mesocycle, and we'll see how that goes. I'm in a caloric deficit. For the last 2 days, I've eaten approximately 2,000 calories, give or take 300. Fucking hate it. Really just want to be done losing this weight so I can bulk. Like, man, dude, I go to the gym fasted 99% of the time, dude. A lot of days I don't eat till 5 or 6. Man, just looking forward to being at a point where I can be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna eat that because I don't care, because I've already lost all the weight. You know what I'm saying? So right now my realistic goal for where I'm trying to get to is 220. Again, I'm 5'10". That's still heavy for somebody that's fucking 5'10". But 220, that would be 55 pounds down. Definitely can hit that by the end of the year. That's not even a thing. But if I could get to 200 or 210 by the end of the year, that would be fucking solid, while not losing all these gains that I've made, because I'm happy with how big I am muscularly speaking, but I just need to lose this fat. Anyway, I hope this video was interesting to you. I've been reading a lot of literature lately on hormones, on strength training, and my plan is to share some of that with you. So we can review some papers, we can look at them. I think it'll make all of us a little bit more intelligent about how we choose to exercise, because I think that it's a shame in this day and age for somebody to train without intelligence. And that's not to say I'm not just like, I don't believe in just straight up evidence-based everything. You gotta do what you feel, you gotta do what works for you, you gotta work with your own body. But I think that there's definitely some modern day science that we can incorporate into our training that can help to optimize and skip some of that figuring it out yourself work. Anyway, I'm Jake, man. I hope you liked this. Peace out, peace out, peace out. Look like the hunchback, dude.